Hey, what's up, brothers? Welcome to My Life Monday with Mike, your mentor. Thank you for being with me tonight. If you're watching the replay, I really appreciate you taking the time to check this out. This is one of the lighter days of the week, given that, one, I have a difficult time uh, talking about my life. I mean, the past is fine. Things that go on, I guess, maybe you come here expecting on Mondays for there to be some big show or some huge revelation. In this past week, there really hasn't been anything. I do have two things I want to share with you guys real quick, but for all the new people, you want to come you want to come here every day, but the big highlights of the week are Fridays. We do Man Up Friday, where we teach manhood principles. We try to bring honor back to being a man and what that needs to look like. Sundays are a big day for the Sunday sermon, where I just talk about different things God's put on my heart as I made this curriculum, I guess, the social curriculum for the year. And then Tuesdays are Tuesday Thoughts, where we talk about things that make us better men, better husbands, better members of our community. So if you're new to this page, welcome. My name is Mike King, and I'll give you a brief background on my story, right? So I grew up the first 10 years of my life with my dad being in and out of prison, and it was just like you saw in the movies, talking through the glass with the phone. Every now and then my dad would get put in a lower level facility, and my mom would take us there to visit, and we'd get to go on this this playground inside of the facility and play while my mom sat at a picnic bench and talked with my dad. And he would sometimes give us drawings and stuff because he was an artist, and he had drew stuff for us. But after those first 10 years of life, there was a short gap where Dad was gone. Didn't really know where he was at. Came back into our lives at age of 14/15, and he was only around for maybe a handful of weeks. And during that time, I was excited because I was adrift in life, being a teenager and trying to figure out what it meant to be a young man on my own. And God did a good job of putting other men, coaches, fathers of guys I hung out with in my life that I could glean from and that I could see and that could show me what real manhood looks like. But when my dad came back on the scene, I was pretty pumped because I always wanted my dad to see me play basketball, see me play football, see me play baseball, just hang out with me, play games with me, tell me stories. I loved as a little kid when he would tell me stories the few times that he was around about him growing up in Alabama. And unfortunately that lasted a couple weeks. Him and my mom got into an altercation. He showed up at the house high, ripped off his shirt, picked up a large, I don't know, a large rock like that big, I can't think of the word, and threw it through our front window on our door. And my mom had to call the police, and he disappeared off into the night. That set in a cycle of him disappearing and showing up every 2 years in my life for the next 6 years. So at my graduation, he showed up and disappeared. When my brother tragically committed suicide when I was a sophomore in college, he showed up and then disappeared. And then when I was going to graduate from college, he tried to show up, but he called me to let me know that he had been diagnosed with stage 4 liver cancer and wasn't sure how long he had to live. And I was fortunate enough to be able to see him a few days after I graduated, and he died a few weeks after that. So, as you can imagine, at his funeral, or maybe you can imagine, I said my last respects to him during the service, and then as I headed back to my seat, I was just overwhelmed and flooded with all this emotion, all these feelings that the guy in the box didn't know anything about me. And as I sat down and began to cry and sob uncontrollably, my life flashed through my mind in all these memories, right one after another. And he was in so few of those memories my anger just burned deeper and deeper towards him, and the fact that he didn't know anything about me, and how could he choose all this other stuff over me. And it just hit me at the core of who I was as a person and as a man. And I believe that at our core, we all desired to be chosen, and that is our deepest need, is to be chosen by our parents, chosen by our peers, chosen by our spouse, chosen by our Creator. And when we don't get that need met in a healthy way, we turn towards unhealthy things, which I did. Throughout my entire life, girls, drugs, alcohol, at times, pornography, obsession over different things in my life. Trying to meet this need. And so at the funeral home, I sat there sobbing and crying uncontrollably, and just thinking that over and over, that he didn't know anything about me. And I heard, for the first time in my life, God's audible voice speak to me, and he said, "I know everything about you, son." And immediately this overwhelming peace came over me, and all that anger just left me. And obviously that wasn't the end of all the things that I had to deal with regarding these wounds that were put in my heart, but that was kind of not the beginning, but the middle of this process of me discovering what it means to be a man, and learning that in order to move forward as being a man, you first have to look back and deal with those things. And so that's what this page is about, is me taking the 38 years of wisdom and seeds that have been planted in me by so many others, and taking that and sharing that with other people. Because it doesn't matter what your age is. It doesn't matter if you're older than me. It doesn't matter what your color is. It doesn't matter how much money you make, what kind of vehicle you drive, where you got your education. Wisdom has no bias. It has no prejudice. It doesn't. None of those things matter. Wisdom is wisdom, and you don't know what you don't know. And the older that I become, and the more that I experience in life, the more that rings true. So I'm just trying to take this stuff that no one ever showed me, the stuff they don't teach you in school, about being a man and what that really looks like, and share it with anybody that's willing to listen. So normally on these nights I talk about some stuff that's happened to me in the week prior, but for some reason, it's just this mental block. Maybe I just need to start taking notes about what I do every day, but I don't think that I have anything dramatic or anything, I don't know, mind-blowing to share with you guys. So that I struggle on these nights. So don't judge me or this page by tonight. I promise you, this is good stuff on this page that we go over. So the two things that I did want to talk to you about, as I started reading this new book, and I used to be really big into reading. I've gotten away from it. I've gotten away from a lot of my good habits that I need to get back into. So I'm trying to do that, and it's called Straight Line Leadership. That's one of my mentors recommended to me, and I just started digging into it. And I want to read you something because it goes to the core of, or it's part of the core. There's some synergy here with what I talk about on this page, right? As humans, we all hunger for more wisdom and more knowledge. But this says, or the author says, and you've probably heard this before, so this is just, good reminder for all of us. Knowledge only becomes useful when it is successfully applied. Knowledge without doing only frustrates you and dilutes your strength. So it's never knowledge alone that gets you what you want. And I think that's a good reminder, because the stuff that we talk about on this page about restoring honor back to manhood and what it looks like to actually be a man, and walking into that process, there's a lot of knowledge that I present to you guys, but until you're really willing to take accountability and responsibility for what you're being taught and implement that into your life in whatever way God is speaking to you about or trying to show you, you're not going to experience that change. No matter how many times you come back and you experience this information. And trust me, I know it's like like a lot of things. It's easier said than done, but nothing is more fruitful or more worthwhile than doing the hard work and what comes from doing the hard work. And this is hard work. This is hard work emotionally. This is hard work mentally. Sometimes it can be hard work physically, because the toll that it takes on your body to revisit these things that have been buried so deep inside of you, these wounds that you have not touched for sometimes years, sometimes decades, to finally be man enough to deal with those things and deal with them in a delicate way, right? In a responsible way. So I get that. So just wanted to share that with you. So I'm going to be reading through this book. And the second thing I want to share with you guys tonight, before we get out of here, is I forget what it's called. I think it's called your reticular activation, something reticular. Some big fancy scientific word that escapes me right now in my robust vocabulary. But it's basically, right, like when you're driving down the road and you buy a new car, you could have been driving down the road for weeks before that and never seen anybody else driving your kind of car. But now that you've got this new car and you're driving down the road, you're seeing it everywhere, right? Because your mind is just becoming aware of this. So I don't know if it's just because I continue to go deeper and continue to talk about this thing about manhood more and more, but I'm just recognizing this everywhere I go, and at times it's kind of eerie. So I've been watching this show sometimes while I do my work, my paperwork, and it's called Oz. So it used to be on HBO when I was a kid. When I was a teenager. I think it came out when I was a senior in high school, actually. And it's about life inside of a prison, and it's use discretion if you're gonna watch it. It's actually, I think it's great writing. It's very interesting, the way the actors that portray these characters, their minds work, and all of the backstabbing and just them surviving and doing whatever they have to get by. But recently I've noticed that there has been a lot of undertones regarding these manhood wounds, right? And these wounds that these guys all carry in their lives that in some way or another have, well, I know this, but in some way or another have affected them, and affected them to the point where they don't realize it, but these wounds, some of them actually do, believe it or not, but these wounds have put them where they currently are in life and in their situation, because they don't know how to handle their emotions, because they have so much anger. Thinking of this one character, so much anger built up towards their father because of the way that they were treated growing up, that comes out against them, against other people. And it kind of reminds me of the saying, right? The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And I don't want to put that on anybody, but if you come from a rough background or a rough situation or a rough upbringing, or you were in a home where maybe your parents, God bless them, they tried the best they could, but they didn't set the best example for you. I'm a firm believer that you have a choice, right? You have a choice to follow that, or you have a choice to do that. And it plays out in so many ways. My mom actually busted me out a while ago. She goes, I remember when you were a kid and you would say, when I'm a parent, I'm never going to do that to my kids. And then I don't remember what it was, but I ended up, she busted me out when she saw me doing the same thing with my daughter. So I kind of had to pull my foot out of my mouth on that one. But I just bring this up because, I don't know, it just reinforces this. I don't want to call it a thing, but I don't know the right words to put to it, this thing that I'm pursuing, this thing that we're pursuing, this thing we're going into, and I'm just seeing how it's affecting all these different facets of life, from conversations I have for men, from interactions that I have for men, and it doesn't even have to be directly related to manhood, but I just start to notice these things, just from entering the room and watching people try to size each other up, or watch people try to wear different masks in pose, and hide their insecurities, which I get, and I'm not mad at him for it, because I played that game, Lord knows, for a long time too, and at times still do. But how this stuff just becomes more and more apparent. So maybe I was just rambling for the last 10 minutes, whatever, take it for what it's worth. That's what I wanted to share with you guys tonight. As always, I love you. We'll start to get into some more good stuff tomorrow night, 9 o'clock, Tuesday Thoughts, Wednesday Wisdom, Thursday Throwback, Thursday, Friday, 9 o'clock for the live, where we dig into, continue further into the second half of, oh my goodness, my brain's not working. Yeah, this book right here, The Quest for Authentic Manhood. That's where it's at. So that's Friday nights. And then Saturday, we got Shout Out Saturday. And then we'll be back here Sunday at 9 o'clock again for the Sunday sermon, and see what God has in store. So appreciate you guys. If you need anything, feel free to reach out. You know how to get a hold of me. Friend request me on Facebook if you don't, and then shoot me a DM if you need anything. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a good night. I love you, and we'll see you tomorrow for Tuesday Thoughts. Peace.